So, right. YouTube is on?
Yes.
Right. Good morning, gentlemen. I can't find any of our ladies on now. So let me just welcome you, gentlemen, to Sidron Nigeria Limited-EDI batch 24, on the 24th batch today. I hope you all rested very well. And I hope you're all set for the ride for the next 3 days. If you had followed us on the WhatsApp platform, you'll see in our joining instructions, we did make some comments. Ordinarily, this training is supposed to be for 5 days, Monday to Friday. But we're in the final week before Christmas. And I know many people, this last week is always a very, very busy week, shopping and preparations for travel, despite our security situation and all of the things that come with this Christmas season. So instead of stretching it to Thursday, which is 24th, then Christmas 25th, we thought we'll compress this program to just 3 days, running between today, Monday to Wednesday. Normally we take a paper a day, but for this week, we'll stretch you guys a bit by taking two papers a day. So this is the first paper. We should have started by 10 as we indicated, but you can see we are starting a little after quarter after 10. This is because most of your colleagues have not joined yet. We're supposed to have about 20 people on this for this stretch, but only about 3 of you are here so far. But we cannot continue to wait indefinitely. We'll just start while the others join us. And of course, they will have the opportunity of viewing the slides and the YouTube recording when they are free. We'll normally post that on our WhatsApp training platform. Secondly, we normally like to start our trainings with a pre-lecture quiz and then a post-lecture quiz. But because of this peculiar situation where we're taking 2 topics a day, we'll not have that privilege because of time. So what we intend to do is after the first topic, you do the quiz for that topic, and then after the second lecture, then you run the quiz again for the second lecture. That's how we intend to run this particular week's session. All right, having said that, we'll now get down to the business of the day. Sorry, sorry, just a minute. Let's get something done. All right. Thanks. Right. So let's get started. The business of the day. You see on our screen, we like to start with this very telling picture on our screen. The picture of an elderly gentleman advising a young lady that if your salary is the only source of income, you're just one step away from poverty. We like to start with this slide all of the time because we find the advice to be very, very pertinent and quite an advice that any person should be able to give a loved one. What he's suggesting is that having just one source of income is not exactly a best way of going about living your life or trying to manage your life. One source of income, either as a public servant or a private sector worker, is not always the very best, because you find that that singular source of income might not be enough to see you through on a month-to-month basis in an environment like our own. You all know what the minimum wage is like in this country today, 30,000 naira minimum wage. I can't see how that will help much, really. We know what has happened since the salary increment, that's a minimum wage increment. Many states have not been able to meet that little increment from 18,000 to 30,000. And since then, the world has not been the same. So also has the country not been the same. We have had this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, that's eating into people's means of livelihood. Inflation has quadruple. Prices of petroleum has changed more than 2 times since the beginning of the year. And of course, so there's so much price instability, both in transportation and then, of course, the prices of foodstuff in the market. So if you are, as it were, depending on only a salary as a source of income, then as the elderly gentleman is advising here, you can be sure that you're just one step away from poverty. So what he is suggesting, therefore, and which we also like to re-emphasize, and of course to recognize the fact that you're joining this program is already listening to this advice, is that you need multiple sources of income, okay, not just your salary, okay, for you to move away from poverty. Because if you depend on just one source of income, the likelihood of you being able to survive fairly, squarely, will be a challenge for you. Of course, we hear stories of young men and women who go abroad, and then of course we hear them tell you stories of how they work 2-3 jobs at a time. All of that is because they want to meet with paying of their bills and then meeting their expenses. That's the kind of advice we want to give you now. Now that you have come on this program, it says also that what you intend to do is to be able to find an additional source of income than just relying on your salary if you're a salary earner. If you are into private business, also to multiply, diversify and multiply the source of your income, which is what we advise that you do. It's quite advisable that you do that. Okay, so having said that, let's look at the main topic for the day. All right, so on our screen, I'm sure you have also seen our timetable, where we gave a breakdown of the various topics we'll be taking for the next 3 days. Now, the very first one, which is what I'm presenting now, is on entrepreneurship and skills acquisition for AGSMEIS. The training that we are providing, as approved by NASA Microfinance Bank, is on entrepreneurship. Okay, there are 2 types of training. One is vocational, and then the other is entrepreneurship. Ours is entrepreneurship, which is training you on how to manage your business, manage small businesses which will grow to be mega businesses at the end of the day. So to start this program, what we like to do is to first and foremost give you the background, lay the background to entrepreneurship. Okay, defining what entrepreneurship is, defining who, identifying who is an entrepreneur, what an entrepreneur does, and then give some examples of entrepreneurs. Okay, and then of course AGSMEIS. I want to believe that you all know what AGSMEIS is all about. That's the loan scheme that you are trying to assess. So what we do here also is to break down what AGSMEIS is all about, the initiative behind AGSMEIS, break down the components, break down what it entails, and then why the promoters are promoting this AGSMEIS loan scheme. Okay, so those are basically what we'll be looking at in this very topic. Right, so our training objectives, let's quickly look at our training objectives. First, it's understanding of the AGSMEIS loan scheme. I'll just try to explain that now. We'll be looking at that in more details. Second, to expose participants to the objectives, to the components and processes of achieving the goals of AGSMEIS. And then third, to understand the concept of entrepreneurship, and then to expose participants to the skills required for entrepreneurship. What are the skills required for entrepreneurship? To prepare participants for a life of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, as we'll find out, is not a short distance race. It's not a 100 meter or 110 meters dash or hurdles. It is a long race. It's a marathon. Okay, it's a marathon, which means it's like a lifelong race. Okay, so we have to discuss with you how to prepare you for a life of entrepreneurship. It's not a life that you start today and then you give up the very next day. It's a long haul, so you have to prepare yourself for the long haul because it entails a whole lot of challenges along the line, hurdles, barriers that you have to overcome, skills that you need to be able to run that race. Okay, so that's the training objectives. All right, so let's look at the training outline. What is the training outline? First, we'll be looking at defining AGSMEIS, its objectives, its components, and then the processes of attaining its goals. Secondly, defining entrepreneurship. Like I said, this program is on entrepreneurship, so we want to define entrepreneurship, break it down for you to the very minute details. Then types of businesses and vocational skills that are available within the country and outside. Then consideration before starting a business. What are the things you need to consider before you start a business? Do you, because your friend, your colleague, or Mr. A around your community environment is running a business and you find that he's doing successfully at it, do you also just jump into that line of business, or are there things that you need to look at, things that you need to consider before going into that line of business? Then hurdles in the path of starting a small business. What are the hurdles? What are the barriers that you are likely to encounter if you are starting a business? Okay, so we want to prepare your mind to some of the barriers, some of the challenges that you might encounter when you are starting a business and what you need to do, okay? Sources of funding for small and medium enterprises. You are here because of funding issues, because of financing. So we want to look at those sources, those various sources of funding before you start your own business. Okay, there are various sources of funding, so we want to look at them. Okay, right. Sorry, let me do something quickly. Okay, sorry for the little break. All right, so we start by defining AGSMEIS. We want to define what AGSMEIS is all about. I want to believe you have seen this word before. The AGSMEIS is an acronym. Okay, AGSMEIS is an acronym, and an acronym is a word that you form by picking the first letters in a sentence, So for AGSMEIS, the AG stands for agribusiness, the SME, of course, stands for small and medium enterprises, the IS stands for investment scheme. So AGSMEIS is agribusiness / small and medium enterprises investment scheme. That's what it stands for. So what is AGSMEIS? How did you come about AGSMEIS? AGSMEIS is an initiative of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Committee of Bankers. Okay, they came up with this idea with the aim of supporting the federal government agenda towards the promotion of agricultural businesses and then small and medium enterprises as vehicles for sustainable economic development and employment. Okay, so basically what we're saying here is that the NISA Microfinance Bank is not a government-owned bank, as people tend to think. It is owned by the Committee of Bankers. The Committee of Bankers are the management, the owners of all the deposit money banks that we have in the country, all of the banks that you are aware of, banks like First Bank, Union Bank, UBA, Zenith, Access, GT, and the rest of them. There's Produce these days, there's Polaris, and all of those banks. They came together. They are the ones that form the Committee of Bankers. So they came in liaison with the Central Bank of Nigeria to set up that NISA Microfinance Bank. The Committee of Bankers has 50% shares in that in the bank. Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, through NISA, has 40%. And NIPOS has 10%. NIPOS 10% is represented by the accommodation it provides for National Microfinance Bank in all of its branches across the country. You're all aware that we have 9 post offices in each of the 774 local government councils that we have in the country. So wherever there is a 9 post office in any of our 774 local government areas, ordinarily it's expected that NISA should have an office there. It's designed to be a rural bank, providing banking services to local communities. You're all aware, of course, that our rural communities, our local government areas are heavily underbanked. Today, where you find most of the rural communities are people operators or POS, where you go, you give your card and then they give you cash in return, or you could make deposit and then, of course, they are credited into your account. So that is what's happening across the country today. So the Committee of Bankers and CBN decided to come up with the National Microfinance Bank as a way of supporting the federal government's initiative at the diversification of Nigeria's economy, okay, and then the promotion of agricultural businesses and SMEs, okay, and how do they want to go about that? We are all aware that that Nigeria's economy is a mono economy, depending as it were on oil, on the petroleum sector, on oil sector. And each time that we have any challenge whatsoever with the oil sector, Nigeria's economy takes a dip. Nigeria's economy runs into one problem or the other. This situation was worsened this year, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all aware that across the entire world, industries, countries were shut down, industries were shut down, travels were shut down across the entire world. There was lockdown all over the world, and the economic activities, as it were, came to a halt. We saw pictures of tankers loaded with crude oil floating on the high seas. They could not be delivered in their ports of reception because no industry was working. All countries had locked down their borders, and no economic activity was taking place. So countries that relied on oil as their sole means of economic activities and sources of revenue had this major challenge as a result of that. Okay, we found that OPEC countries, as the oil producing and exporting countries, especially, which Nigeria is one, had a major challenge. Many of the countries across the world, not just the OPEC countries, but even the major economies of the world in Europe, went into recession. Okay, Nigeria had earlier gone into recession at the first quarter of the year, and then it came out of recession, only for it again in the past 3 weeks to go back into recession again. And this is as a result of the fall, the dip in oil revenue. So the federal government has been very, very conscious of this situation. And one of its plans is that it wants to diversify the Nigerian economy. And how does it do that? Diversifying the economy for the Nigerian system, Nigerian government, is moving away from dependence on the oil sector and then into other areas where they can now be able to build the economy around areas that will be able to promote employment opportunities, be able to increase our productive capacity, and then become another major source of revenue earner. And the areas identified by the government are the areas of agricultural businesses, and then of course the small and medium enterprises. These they see as the vehicle, the bulwark, the bulwark to be able to move the Nigerian economy forward. That is why the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Committee of Bankers decided that, look, this is the way to go. This is our own way of supporting the government. And one of the ways that it thought it could be able to support the government is by setting up this bank, the National Microfinance Bank, so that it will be able to provide finances, okay, at very accessible rate, at low interest rate, so that Nigerians who are interested in going into private business will be able to access loans from this bank to start their own businesses, to be able to grow the economy, to be able to employ others. Of course, we are also aware about the major challenges that have been our bane in this country, which is in the area of youth unemployment. Okay, we are aware that our young graduates leaving NYSC, graduating from tertiary institutions and graduating from NYSC, come into the labor market without finding any means of employment. So one of the ways that, of course, then the COVID-19 situation compounded the situation, because many of the industries, many of the enterprises, the banks, okay, shut down their businesses, and many of them had to lay out their staffs. Okay, so we had so much unemployment situation on our hand, the youth unemployed, the youth unemployment section, and then those who are losing their jobs as a result of the downturn in the economy. So one of the ways that the Committee of Bankers and CBN thought there could be of assistance to the government in the area of employment is by providing this easily accessible fund finances at very, very low interest rate, without collateral, to be able to see how individuals, private individuals, can be able to assess the loan and then contribute to become self-employed, and in the process also able to employ themselves, able to employ them others, and increase the national economy. So that's the reason for the initiative for setting up that bank. Okay. So that is we have tried to define AGSMEIS now. So let's look at the objectives of the AGSMEIS loan scheme. First is to ensure, First objective is to ensure small and medium enterprises have access to finance. That's the first and foremost reason for the AGSMEIS loan scheme, to ensure that small and medium enterprises and agricultural businesses have access to finance. I've just explained that by setting up the bank. This target group, the agri-businesses and SMEs, will have access to easily accessible funds at collateral-free and then low interest rate. Then, to generate the much needed employment opportunities, I've explained the youth unemployment situation that we find in the country. And then, of course, those that have lost their jobs as a result of the COVID-19 situation, where so many people were laid off. Government has virtual embargo on employment currently. And then so many of our youths who are graduating from tertiary institutions and after their NYSC are just roaming the streets without employment. So with the setup, with the establishment of this scheme, people will be able to find the ready financing to be able to go into to start their own businesses and become self-employed. That basically is one of the major objectives of this AGSMEIS loan scheme. Then, to boost the managerial capacity of agricultural businesses, SMEs, as pipelines of growing enterprises that can become huge corporate organizations. Here we're talking about this 5 days training that we are having. At the end of it all, at the end of this training, it's expected that you'll be able to gain a couple of managerial skills, okay, be able to acquire some skills which will help you in growing your businesses, in managing your businesses. Apart from this particular topic, which is the foundation topic, we will also later in the day have another topic again on feasibility studies and business plan. Tomorrow we'll be having 2 papers again, one on financial planning and basic bookkeeping and business law, registration of businesses and compliance requirements and doing business in Nigeria. On the last day, Wednesday, I will be having another topic on sales strategies and effective marketing. So these are the topics that we'll be taking, which are all aimed at boosting your managerial capacity in running your own business. Finally, to develop the agricultural value chain and ensure sustainable agricultural practices. The agriculture is a massive industry, it's a massive sector. It's not just about crop farming. It's an entire value chain. And when we talk about value chain, we are looking at the entire spectrum of the business, agricultural business, starting from crop farming in the farms, talking about the implements, the the seedlings and then the seeds and then all of the necessary fertilizers and all of those additives that you bring into the farm. And then of course you are talking about the marketing component of agriculture, and then the exports and the processing, then the export, and then of course the earnings that come along with the agricultural activities. These are the value chain. It's a very long chain. So people can be involved in different sectors of agricultural businesses. Okay, some could be involved with the crop farming itself. Some could be involved with just the provision of appliances, implements, and appliances, and the mechanics and mechanics of the agricultural value chain. Some will be involved with the provision of seedlings, of fertilizers, and things like that. Others will be involved with as off-takers, the off-takers, the marketing component, those, and then others will be involved with the processing, okay, agricultural food processing, agricultural product processing. That is another major area. And then of course the export component of it. And then of course the foreign exchange and all of the earnings that come with it. That is the agricultural value chain. So the AGSMEIS loan scheme will expose you to this vast value chain and then prepare you, as it were, for these agricultural businesses. That's for those of you who want to go into agricultural business. Of course, the sectors are enormous. There are quite a number of other sectors, not just the agricultural sector. The SME sector is another very, very vast section, and each of it has its own value chain along the line also. Okay. All right. Components of AGSMEIS. Let's look at the components of AGSMEIS. Let's break down what AGSMEIS is all about. Okay. So we have defined AGSMEIS as comprising of agribusinesses, small and medium enterprises as a vehicle for economic development and employment. Okay, so what's the agribusiness? Okay, in 2019, agriculture contributed around 21.91% to Nigeria's GDP, surpassed only by industry at 27.38% and services at 49.73%. As at the last NBS releases, agriculture actually was contributing up to about 30% to Nigeria's GDP, which is very, very massive. Okay, although Nigeria depends heavily on the oil sector, okay, for its budgetary revenue, Nigeria is predominantly an agricultural society with approximately 70% of the population engaged in agricultural production at subsistence level. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, before the advent of the oil sector, Nigeria's agriculture was the mainstay of Nigeria's economy, and over 70% of Nigerian population is resident in the rural areas, and most of them are involved in subsistence farming. Okay, so though Nigeria derives 95% of its export earnings and 70% of government revenues from the oil sector. However, when you are looking at it in terms of GDP contribution, the petroleum sector, the oil sector contributes less than 10% to Nigeria's GDP. Okay, in 2015, it was just 9%. In 2016, it was 8%. Okay, and at the last NBS statistical releases, it was still about 8.63%. Okay, which means when you compare it to agriculture, agriculture is more than double in terms of GDP contribution than oil. So oil might be bringing in most of the money, but in terms of GDP contribution, which is what determines the economy of any nation, agriculture is the mainstay. Agriculture contributes way beyond what the oil sector contributes. Okay, so it is this trend. Okay, the trend with respect to the contribution of agriculture to the national economy, okay, that the government is looking at leveraging, taking advantage of that, and then concentrating on that area as it attempts to diversify the economy from oil. So agriculture is seen as an alternative, as an area where the government can diversify its economy and move into, okay, because any sector that is contributing up to 30% to your GDP, you know it's not a sector that you turn your back on, compared to one that is contributing less than 10%, even if it is the main revenue earner. And then of course, you know that there are challenges attached to that sector, which is what we're experiencing in the oil sector. So this is what informed the current government's effort and devoted energy to initiatives like the Anchor Borrowers program and now the AGSMEIS scheme. I'm sure you are all familiar with the Anchor Borrowers program. The Ankoboras program, again, is another initiative of the CBN, where it is providing soft and easy loan to farmers, especially in the rice production sector. Okay, so they are providing funding for people who want to go into agro processing, into rice processing, and into rice farming. Okay, we had a very wonderful stories coming out of places like Kebbi State, like Ebonyi State, Anambra State, Benue, and a host of others, and Lagos also, that have gone into some partnership with Kebbi State, where they were some few years ago, they were producing the lake rice, which is a collaboration between the Lagos State government and Kebbi State government. Today, we are aware that many of young Nigerians who have previously roaming the streets have moved back to their states, especially Kebbi State, where most of them are involved with rice farming. And then, of course, we know that many private initiatives like Olam, like Dangote, have set up massive rice processing mills in Kebbi State. Okay, and then, of course, they've organized the people into outgrowers. Outgrowers are those who come together as cooperative, and then they are given the seedlings, the rice seedlings, and then the implements to farm, okay, to cultivate rice. And when they come time for harvesting, when they are harvesting, the mills come in as off-takers and buy off the rice paddies from these farmers. So there is an integrated system in that place that is working effectively. So what we find today is that because of the Ankoboras program, Nigeria has moved away from being a net importer of rice to even being the eighth largest producer of rice in the world, and then the first #1 producer of rice in Africa. Sooner or later, of course, with that drive and the initiative, it is expected that Nigeria will also begin the process of exporting rice. We're all aware also that just last week, the federal government lifted the ban on the closure of our land borders, but it has still imposed, is still maintaining the ban on the importation of rice and poultry products. This is because it wants to continue to promote rice production locally, because if it decides to lift the ban on the importation of rice, then of course we know that we are going to kill that initiative, and there's no way the government will do a thing like that. It will rather find a way of conserving its foreign exchange by promoting and providing easily accessible funds to rice farmers and then to rice millers, so that Nigeria will become self-sufficient. We have a very, very vast population that we need to feed, and there's no way this country will continue to import its food needs in the country. So this drive is in recognition of the contribution of agriculture. This drive that's a drive towards agricultural businesses, is in recognition of the contribution of agriculture to economic growth and development, in providing food for the expanding population, increasing the demand for industrial products, providing local foreign exchange earnings for import of capital goods, increasing social income, in providing employment, and improving the welfare of citizens. So what we're saying basically here is that the contribution, what the federal government, the Committee of Bankers, the CBN, and the government are doing is a recognition of the place of agriculture. By promoting agricultural businesses, we are promoting economic growth and development. Okay, we are meeting the challenges of providing food for our expanding population. We're a country of over 200 million people, and there's no way we can be able to depend on the importation of food. We won't have that money. We don't have that kind of money, okay, to be able to do that. So what we need to do is to continue to promote local production of food for food security and sustainability. Any country that depends on the importation of food for its population definitely is exposing itself to its external enemies, because the food will be used as a weapon to bring that country down. Okay, so promoting agricultural businesses is a major strategy of government to make sure that we're able to feed our population. Also, in increasing the demand for industrial products, by producing more agricultural products, of course, we know that we are supplying our industrial manufacturing sector with the needed raw materials to continue to boost our manufacturing, okay? Providing local foreign exchange earnings. As we export agricultural products were also earning foreign exchange, which were also in turn used in importing capital goods for our manufacturing sector, then increasing social income. I've told the stories of how many of our young men and women have left the streets where they were involved in menial jobs previously and gone into farming. And that has been a major source of income for them. Today, we are hearing the stories of farmers in Kebbi State who are buying cars, machines, taking themselves out to, on pilgrimages, religious pilgrimages, getting married to more wives, and all of those things. Okay, these are all social income. Okay, and then of course that is a source of employment. Agriculture is the largest source of employment in the country today, because with agriculture, as we expand the agricultural activities, more and more people are coming into the business. But unfortunately, for the challenges we're having with security, if not, agriculture will be a major source of employment in the country as we have it today. So it is these gains, okay, that explain the need to support the growth and expansion of agri and agro-allied businesses, industry, and its associated value chain. So the gains from agriculture, as highlighted above, these are the reasons why the Committee of Bankers and CBN, and then of course are supporting the government with respect to the agricultural activities, agri and agro-allied industry, and its associated value chain. Okay, so let's look at the second component of AGSMEIS. This is the SME. The SME is the small and medium enterprises. The SME sector is the backbone of major developed economies, as well as an important contributor to employment and economic and export growth. So what we're saying basically here is that the SME sector is the backbone, not of developing countries, mind you, but major developed economies. Major developed economies, the major developed economies you know in the world today, the SME sector is their backbone, okay? Because the SME, what we find as major corporations, major industries today started as SMEs. It is from that level of SME that they grew up to be what they are today, okay? So I always like to, when I'm presenting this paper, I always like to give the example of Apple, okay? Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and all of that. They all started as SMEs. Okay, Apple, for example, started around 1976 or thereabout. Okay, as an SME, as Apple Computer. Okay, in the garage of the parents of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They are the two people that started Apple Computer. Started in the garage of their parents. Okay, but today, Apple Computer has moved away from being just Apple Computer to Apple Corporation to Apple today. Okay, so when you say Apple today, most people are not thinking about the food Apple, but they are thinking about the electronic device. They are thinking about the computer. They are thinking about the smartphones. That is what Apple has become today. Okay, it started from that small, but today it's a major corporation, major enterprise, with over $2 trillion revenue on a year-to-year basis, okay, which is more than what Nigeria as a country earns. Nigeria earns just about 486 billion revenue per annum, compared to Apple, which is just one single corporation company, earning over $2 trillion revenue per annum, okay? If you look at also Microsoft, also started as an SME in the garage of Bill Gates' parents, but today, Microsoft is a major corporation across the world, producing one of the richest persons in the world. And there's no computer that you buy today, appliances that you use today, that you are not using a Microsoft item. So each time you buy a computer, you buy any software, you know that you are putting something into the pocket, into the coffers of Microsoft. That is how it starts, okay? Same also with Facebook. Facebook just started barely in 2004, barely 16 years ago. But today, it's a $6 billion industry, okay, spread across the entire world. It started as an SME, but today is a major industry. So the SME sector is a backbone of the major developed economies. If you go to China, if you go to South Korea, you're talking about Samsung, you're talking about Huawei. All of these are major industries, major corporations today that started as SMEs, but today they are providing the backbone to most of this. So that is what Nigeria is also looking at. Okay, that is why it's trying to promote the SME sector. Because according to the Nigeria SME survey by PwC 2019, in Nigeria, SMEs contribute 48% of national GDP. 48% of national GDP, and account for 96% of businesses and 48% of employment. This is massive. We've looked at that of agriculture, contributing 21.9% in 2019, and then 30% as at this year, compared to oil, which is less than 10% of the GDP contribution. But the SME sector, contributing about 50% to national GDP, and accounting for 96% of businesses and 48% of employment. So these are massive figures. That is why the government is trying to see, look, this is the way to go, okay? Oil is not it, okay? Oil is a perishable item, but these are new areas that people will continue to come in, and then of course we can grow. SMEs in Nigeria constitute a total of about 17.4 million enterprises. They account for 50% of industrial jobs and nearly 90% of the manufacturing sector in terms of enterprises. The manufacturing sector, as we know it today, we are all aware that most of our major manufacturing companies have folded up, moved out of the country because of the power situation and because of the challenges that we have in the country. If you go to the Ikeja industrial area in Lagos today, what you find is that churches have taken up most of the warehouses and the factories. If you go to Kakuri in Kaduna today, most of the textile industries are folded up, okay? All we do now is importing textiles. Okay, if you go to Sharada Industrial Complex in Kano today, what you find there is a terrible eyesore. No productive activities going on anymore in any of these sectors, okay? So the major manufacturing sector in Nigeria is almost comatose. But in terms of SME contributions, the small and medium enterprises, 90% of the manufacturing sector is SME based, okay? So with less than 10% in the major industrial hub, okay? So, and that is the way to go. That is the way we have to start building from somewhere to become the major hub that it is in other countries. So according to the National Bureau of Statistics, in collaboration with the small and medium enterprises, the SME sector in Nigeria is strategically positioned to absorb up to 80% of jobs, improve per capita income, increase value addition to raw material supply, improve import earnings, enhance capacity utilization in key industry, and unlock the economic expansion and GDP growth. So basically, the National Bureau of Statistics and then the SMEIDIN, and that is why SMEIDIN was set up in the first place, to be able to promote the development of SMEs, because the potential, government has seen the potential, and it needs an agency that will continue to work on that sector and continue to promote the development of SMEs in the country. Because if we're able to properly position the SME, it says that it can be able to absorb up to 80% of jobs in the country, 80% of jobs, which is very, very massive in a country where unemployment is a major, major challenge, okay, to also improve the per capita income, increase value addition to raw materials, because if you want to export, if you want to manufacture, the SME sector definitely will be the value additions others to the raw materials that we have in the country today, of course, and then of course improve import earnings and capacity utilization. So these are the very, very massive potential of the SME sector, and that is why the Committee of Bankers and CBN are pushing in those two areas and seeing how they can be able to provide funds to interested Nigerians to be able to continue the process of developing that area. So it is this potential which the government wants to explore and expand. But you realize that there exists a missing link, a missing middle, sorry, which is that SMEs still find it hard to access funds. So the government has seen the potential of agricultural businesses and then the potential of the SME sector, okay? It's seen that if we're able to exploit those two sectors, then we'll be able to substantially diversify our economy and move away from dependence on the oil sector. But then you realize that there is a challenge, there is a problem. And that problem is that there is what you call the missing middle, okay? And then the missing middle, of course, has been identified as access to funds, okay? And as much as those of you who are registered in this program will want to start your own businesses today, for example, you'll find that accessing funds, accessing financing is a major problem. So how do you go about that? How do you go about accessing funds, okay? So this is where the AGSMEIS loan scheme has come in. The AGSMEIS loan scheme is therefore government's response and solution to the missing middle. This is government's response. a solution to the missing middle, providing affordable and easily accessible funds to this vibrant and explosive sector with a high potential to be a major backbone for Nigeria's economy. So the AGSMEIS loan scheme is government's own response to the issue of access to funds, okay? So what it tries to do here is that this is a scheme that will provide easily accessible funds without collateral and with low interest rate, okay? And then of course, long tenure of 7 years before you can be able to repay the loan. And then a moratorium of 1 year to 18 months. So all of this have been made simplified and made easy so that people are able to easily access this fund and then be able to start their own businesses, be able to employ others, and then open up the opportunities that we want in this country today. All right, so we have finished with the introductory part of this section, which is defining AGSMEIS, its initiative, its components, and its objectives. Okay, so we'll be moving on to entrepreneurship next, okay, which is the main topic of this paper. But before we do that, we'd like to, at this stage, open the floor so that in case you have any questions that you want to ask, you can ask the questions, and then before we proceed, sorry. I can see that we have just 2 participants left on the platform. So if you have any question, please feel free to unmute your mic and then ask your question so that we can proceed. Okay. All right. Infinix S4, why don't you give us your name so that we can be able to identify you? And then Godwin, you have any question? You have unmuted your mics. You can ask your question, please.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Yeah, so far I've really enjoyed this lecture. I really appreciate to have the opportunity to be part of this. I want to say that this has always been my dream to participate in agribusiness of my choice, to be able to at least stabilize in the area of economic activities, personal, and then the country at large. The question I have is, I notice that there is a sort of inclarity as to some agri-businesses, the kind of terrain possible to manage them. For example, I want to operate in an environment like JOS, which I know very well, but the kind of operations I want to do is more of like processing, food processing, maybe to mill rice, mill oil, and so many other stuff like that. So I don't know. That kind of business I know is like capital intensive, and it takes time. Will the moratorium accommodate such possibilities?
Right, good. Sure, it definitely will. The moratorium they have on the loan is business specific. So it depends on the type of business you want to go into. Some have longer gestation period. So depending on the gestation period, that is when they'll determine the period of moratorium that will be given to you. Some have, the standard one is 1 year moratorium. And then of course, it could extend up to 18 months. Okay, we know that if you are going to plantation like a palm produce plantation, for example, you know that before you plant, and it takes a year, 2 years to 3 years. So if you are going to an area like that, the moratorium definitely will be longer. But for your milling industry, enterprise, sorry, if you're going to rice milling, of course, the moratorium is not likely to be very, very long like that. Maybe at most they will give you up to 12 months to 18 months, because this one you are just buying machinery and you are set up your industry, buying the paddy rice for processing. That's a straightforward thing. So you have that moratorium of at least 1 year before you start repayment. Is that understood, Godwin? Hello, Godwin. Did you hear me? Did you hear my explanation? Are you off? Can you hear me? Did you hear the explanation I gave?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Did you hear my explanation?
Yeah. Yes. I heard your explanation. The is very clear, sir. I'm okay. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Infinix. All right. Thanks. Infinix X4. Can you give us your name? Can you write your name so that we can identify you? And if you have any question, you have any question? Audio problem. All right. If you don't have any questions, we'll go back to the class and then continue then. So let's go back. Start sharing. Okay. All right, so we'll now go to the second section of this paper, which is on entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? Can somebody go to the chat box and help me define what entrepreneurship is all about? Let's have a quick definition between Godwin and Infinix X4. Quickly, can you help me define entrepreneurship? Checking the chat box. Nobody has volunteered so far. All right, what is entrepreneurship? What does it mean when we say entrepreneurship? What does it mean when we say it's an entrepreneur? Who is an entrepreneur? What does an entrepreneur do? What is entrepreneurship? All right, see no comments on the chat box. All right, so let's go on. What is entrepreneurship? Okay, when you say somebody is involved in entrepreneurship, what does it entail? Okay, entrepreneurship is a process of starting and running a business enterprise. That's a straightforward definition that we always like to give. Okay, the process of starting and running a business. Okay, it involves investing capital in resources like people and in the development of products and services to create viable commercial enterprises. Okay, each time you take your money, your funds, your finances, okay, and invest in resources. And resources, of course, include people, okay, and products, okay. That is to create an enterprise, create a viable enterprise or any business. That is entrepreneurship. So each time a person takes his money, okay, and invests in people for the purposes of producing some products or services, that is entrepreneurship. It is the willingness and capacity to develop, to organize and manage a business venture along with any of its risks and in order to make a profit. This is a more encompassing definition because here we are looking at two things, okay? We are looking at the profit motive. So each time you start an enterprise, those of you who are in business, for example, today, Godwin wants to go into food processing, rice processing, and products like that in Plateau State, for example, okay? The fact that you are willing, okay, to take some risk and then for a profit motive is at the tail end of it, okay? But for you to reach that profit, you have to take certain risk, okay? And then of course, you'll be putting your resources, you'll be putting your money in to be able to make a profit, and then the risks that come with it. That is what entrepreneurship is all about. Entrepreneurship is about a profit motive. It's about taking risk in order to be able to set up or start an enterprise. Okay, so that is what entrepreneurship is all about. The most obvious definition of entrepreneurship is the starting of new businesses. So each time you start a new businesses, of course, you know that you are starting an entrepreneur activity. What is the entrepreneurial spirit? Entrepreneurial spirit is characterized by innovation, by risk-taking, and is an essential part of a nation's ability to succeed in an ever-changing and increasingly competitive global market. What I'm saying basically here is that the world is a competitive global market. The world is a massive global market. Every country, individuals within countries are innovating, they are taking risks to be able to have a pie, to have a section of that global marketplace. Okay, the competition between the US and China today is all a function of who gets what out of this global marketplace. In Africa, you come to Africa, Nigeria, South Africans are in a competition to be able to grab a piece of the African marketplace. Okay, you have our international players like Dangote, who has cement factories in over 11 countries in Africa. You have Glo, for example, competing with MTN, okay, and Airtel in order to have part of the Nigerian telecom market, and then of course many countries in the West Coast. So all of these are competing for a piece of the global market. China and the US and EU are competing to see how they can slice Africa into their hands. Today we have another drive towards the recolonization of Africa again, because of the influence of China. China has seen that Africa has been abandoned by the European countries that had colonized it over time, have been doing businesses with it. So it has come back into the continent today. And what is it looking at? It's looking at the infrastructural deficit that we have in Africa, and then see how it can explore and exploit that section. So today you find China in most countries in Africa building airports for them, building, resuscitating their railway systems, and then building all manners of infrastructure to be able to start up their businesses. It is doing that with little cost as loans, which of course is being seen today as another debt trap for the African countries if care is not taken and if it's not well managed. So that is the competition that we are seeing across the world today. So today we are finding countries having Africa-China conference. We have India-Africa conference. The EU are also having their EU-African conference, with each country trying to see how they'll be able to grab a piece of this global marketplace. That is what the entrepreneurship spirit is doing. And most of these things are being driven not by the countries by themselves, but by the individuals, by their entrepreneurs who are pushing this. Okay, because when you are looking at what's happening in Africa today, the competition in Africa today, for example, it is being supported by Nigeria from the background, but the principal actors are individuals like Dangote, like Otedola, Adenoga, who are behind most of these economic activities, who are driving all of this. Today, we have many of Nigerian banks in so many countries in Africa today. You go to East Africa, you find UBA almost all the places. GT has branches in almost all of the West Coast, same also with Zenith Bank. So all of these are being driven by citizens of the country, but with the support of the country. So that is what the entrepreneurial spirit is all about, okay? Individuals are innovating, they are taking the risk, they are opening up new frontiers, they are trying to grab a part of the global marketplace, okay? So across the world, that is what is happening, and that is what the entrepreneurial spirit is all about, okay? So who is an entrepreneur? Who is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who takes the risk of investing his money, his time, passion in development of a business or several business enterprises. So that says it all. Okay, we have looked at what entrepreneurship is all about. It's about investing your money, your capital in persons, in products and services, okay, for purposes of profit making. Your ability to organize, your ability to a willingness to put in resources together, take all the risk for profit motive. Here, an entrepreneur is that person who takes the risk, okay? Is willing to take the risk. You are trying to assess a loan now. The loan, of course, comes in the form of money, so you are willing to take the risk of investing the loan money, okay? To invest the loan money, okay, and your time and your passion in developing a business or several business enterprises. That's what an entrepreneur does, okay? He has a profit motive at the tail end, and then he's willing to take the risk. In taking the risk, he's willing to invest his money and his time and his passion. Passion is what drives him. His money and time are what he's willing to give, okay? And then the risk of failure is there, risk of rejection is there, but he is focused because he knows if he's able to overcome all of this, then of course the profit motive will be accomplished. So an entrepreneur is that person who is willing to take the risk of investing his money, his time, and passion in the development of a business of several business enterprises. Another definition that really resonates with us is who is an entrepreneur? Okay, who is an entrepreneur? The definition by Reid Hoffman, for example, is very, very telling. It says an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. That is a very, very pungent definition. Because when you jump off a cliff, you are taking a risk. When you build a plane on your way down, you are making a profit. So that is captured more succinctly than anybody else. Okay, is an entrepreneur is someone who is willing to to jump off a cliff, to take the risk of jumping off a cliff. We don't know what a cliff is. Okay, we know it's a very high mountainous area with a ravine and a river maybe underneath. And okay, so if anybody who is willing to take the risk of jumping off a cliff, and then at the end of it, on his way down, he's able to build a plane, that is his able to achieve the goal for which that risk is taken. So literally jumping off the cliff is taking the risk, and then of course building the plane on your way down is what you are able to accomplish. That is basically what it entails. Okay, so that is Reid Hoffman's definition of an entrepreneur. On our screen is the picture of the Wright brothers. I'm sure you're all aware of who the Wright brothers are. The Wright brothers are the people that started the whole concept of aeroplane. You can see the contraption they built. When they started out, people laughed at them and said there was no way that an object with a heavy metallic body will be built that will be able to fly across in the air and then across the ocean and across countries. Okay, they say it was simply impossible. But the Wright brothers had their mind focused. They had their vision. Okay, they say that within a specific period, they intend to be able to bridge the gap of travel between continents across the sea. Okay, they crashed severally, but at the end of it today, we are all beneficiaries of the vision, the determination, and the entrepreneurial spirit and innovation of the Wright brothers. Today we have jumbo jets who are flying across the world, okay, flying from Nigeria to Europe in 6 hours, to America in about 8 hours, crossing from the Americas all the way to Hong Kong in 21 hours, can go any length. Okay, that is a function of the vision of the Wright brothers. They were not deterred, even when they were rejected, even when people laughed at them, they were focused and they say it's possible, it's doable. And of course, it was done. Okay, that is the typical example of an entrepreneur jumping off a cliff and then at the end of it, building a plane. On our screen is another entrepreneur, a modern day Wright brothers. I don't know how many of you recognize this picture, but this is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the founder and owner of SpaceX. SpaceX is an aeronautic engineering company that specializes in building spacecraft that takes people to the orbit, to the International Space Center. And the vision of Elon Musk is to be able to set up space travel for people to go on as tourists into the space to view the planet, to view the cosmos, the horizon, and then of course make their way back. But ultimately to be able to colonize Mars and settle people in Mars, just like people are settled on Earth. So this is his own dream, this is his own vision, and this is what he aspires to do. So he represents today the typical Wright brothers, okay? Jumping on a cliff, building a plane. He has already done that successfully. In the last 1 year, he has sent over 8 people to the International Space Center in orbit. Okay, the last one went about a month ago, when he sent about 4 people, including the first Black astronaut to the International Space Center, and they will be there for the next 6 months. The first set came back sometime in August, or in July or August or thereabout. The second set just left last month. So that is Elon Musk's ambition. Elon Musk is a South African. Today is a South African American. His father is still alive in South Africa today, but that is what is driving him. Elon Musk also is into the production of electric cars. I don't know how many of you have heard of Tesla, but Tesla is an electric car. And of course, the aspiration is also in the same direction, moving away from oil, okay, because of the climate change issues. because of carbon emission, pollution from vehicles driven by petroleum. So when we talk about petroleum, about moving away from petroleum to natural gas and to electric cars, that is the drive. The aspiration is that most countries by 2050, it's expected that over 80% of the vehicles in the world will be driven on electricity. Already BMW says by 2030, most of his cars, over 90% of his cars will be driven by electricity. And Elon Musk is already expanding in places like China, and China is also building so many cars because they have been experiencing the challenges of air pollution over time. So most of them are moving away, as it were, from petroleum-driven cars, which results in carbon monoxide pollution, depletion of the ozone space, and all of these issues related with climate change, which is very, very topical today. We see what is happening across the world today. Most of the climatic changes that are taking place are a function of the climate change, and most of that have its roots in oil-driven machineries and vehicles across the world that powers the industrial world today. So that is what the kind of pioneering activity that Elon Musk is championing. Okay, so what does an entrepreneur do? What does an entrepreneur do? An entrepreneur identifies a need that no existing business addresses and determines a solution for that need. Entrepreneurial activities include developing and launching new businesses and then marketing them, often with the end goal of selling the business to turn a profit. That is basically what an entrepreneurial activity does. Okay, so an entrepreneur is a person who identifies that no existing businesses addresses a challenge, a problem, and then determines a solution for that. The example I like to give most times when I'm discussing this aspect is, as an individual, you come into a community, into an environment, and you find that the people within that community are drinking water from the river, from a stream. Of course, it's that same stream that almost all the villagers go to get their water for drinking, for cooking, for feeding, and it's that same river, that same stream that animals, cows, okay, go to drink, go to pollute, and do all sorts of things. So you can imagine the kind of disease prevalence, the kind of health challenges that people within that environment will have. So as an entrepreneur, you come into that community and you begin to say, how come these people do not have potable drinking water? What is it that I can do to make the difference, to reduce the disease prevalence, to be able to provide these people with potable drinking water? So if you now look at the situation and then you decide to dig a borehole within that environment, of course, you know that you are solving the problem, okay? You have identified a need, the need for potable drinking water, and then you've provided a borehole, okay, that pumps water for people to be able to access, to either buy or you are deciding to bottle it as sachet water or canned or bottled water. All these are solutions that you are providing. That is what an entrepreneur does. You are providing a business when none exists, providing a solution to a challenge you found within the community. That is what an entrepreneur does, okay? Or you come into an environment and you find that people within this community buy their bread, okay, from over a kilometer or over 1 hour away, and then you decide to set up a bakery. That is finding a solution to a challenge within that community. Providing the bakery solves the problem of people traveling for over 3 kilometers or over 1 hour to be able to buy bread for people within this community. That is identifying a need that exists and then providing the solution to it. That is what an entrepreneur does, okay? An entrepreneur who regularly launches new businesses, sells them and starts new one is a serial entrepreneur, okay? So you are permanently developing new initiatives, new businesses. Additionally, although the term entrepreneur is often associated with startups and small businesses, any founder of a major household name business began as an entrepreneur. Given the example of Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, all of them started as startups and small businesses, but today they are successful household name business owners. They all started as an entrepreneur, as entrepreneurs, okay? Right. So see, here are some examples of some successful entrepreneurs. We have Steve Jobs that I just talked about now. He's a late tech leader who started the Apple computer in the garage with his friend Steve Wozniak. And today it has grown to be a dominant tablet, smartphone company, computer company. Apple has moved from Apple Computer to Apple Corporation to simply Apple. That is what the brand is all about today. So when you say Apple today, everybody knows you are talking about the Apple Incorporated, okay? And not the Apple your foods, okay? Bill Gates. Bill Gates is the Microsoft creator and founder, okay? He's one of the richest people in the world today. He also started his Microsoft business computer in the garage of his parents, okay? When he was starting, he approached the IBM machine. The IBM, the owners of this massive mainframe computers in those days, and told them that, look, my vision is that within the decade, we'll be able to put microcomputers on the desks of every office in America and in every home. And IBM people laughed at him. They didn't show any interest. They say it was not possible. But today, that is one of their major regrets. Regretted turning Bill Gates back. And today, Bill Gates' words have come to pass. We have computers in every home and in every office in America across the world today. Elon Musk, I've spoken about Elon Musk already. He's the founder of SpaceX, an aerospace and rocket manufacturing company. And then, of course, Tesla, the electric car company, right? So these are the pictures of Steve Jobs. We lost him in 2011. Bill Gates has moved away from IT into medicine, into the production of vaccine, where he is championing several courses in the production of vaccine, presently working with so many of these corporations in the production of the COVID-19 vaccine. Was instrumental to Nigeria exiting the polio infection, free Nigeria from polio infection through the production of vaccines supported by him and the Gavi Foundation. These are some of the wonderful things they've been doing for humanity, right? Then, of course, we have Mark Zuckerberg, okay, a young man just about 33 or thereabout. He's a co-founder and owner of Facebook, okay? This started as a social networking service in his Harvard University dormitory in 2004. 5 years down the line, around 2009, he had over 500 million users. Today, there are over 2 billion users on Facebook with a revenue of over 6 billion yearly. So that is massive. But it started as a small enterprise, as an SME, but today is a major corporation across the world. Here are examples of our own Nigerian businesses, successful entrepreneurs, where people like Tony Elumelu, Denuga, Dangote, Tedola, Sawoshika. All these are Nigerian entrepreneurs who have done very well for themselves. Okay, Dangote, we're all aware of his story. Okay, today he is Africa's richest person with vast interest in cement, in sugar, oil, and gas, with cement companies in over 11 countries in Africa today. Then, of course, we know of Tony Elumelu, who's made a fortune in banking. And then, of course, he has a UBA spread across so many countries in Africa today. And he is also involved in empowering and developing new entrepreneurs that we hope in the next 10 to 20 years will be taken over from the current crop of entrepreneurs. On a year-to-year basis, we see posters like this of Tony Elumelu's Tony Elumelu Foundation's entrepreneurial activities, where he brings together hundreds of thousands of young Africans from all over Africa, where he provides them with seed money ranging from $5,000 to $20,000 for them to start their own businesses. And on a year-to-year basis, they reconvert to be able to discuss what they've been able to do with the seed money given to them. The hope is that in the next 10 to 20 years, this will be the entrepreneurs that are driving Africa and Africa's businesses. That is the aspiration, and that is the direction to go. Okay, all right. So here again on our screen is the picture of another young Nigerian. I don't know how many of you know him, but I can see that somebody has a Techno here. Okay, if you have Techno or Infinix a phone brand, then you should know something about this gentleman on our screen. His name is Nnamdi Ezigbo. He is the founder and CEO of Slot Nigeria. and then co-founder of Techno and Infinix cell phones. So in case you are not aware, this is the guy behind Techno and Infinix phone models. Okay, and it is the fastest selling mobile phone set phones in Nigeria today. Not your iPhone or Samsung or Huawei or Huawei, how they call it, Huawei. Okay, the Chinese phone. But Techno and Infinix are the fastest selling mobile phones in Nigeria today. And how did Nnamdi Ezigbo do it? When he graduated from NYC in 1996, he worked like most young graduate coppers. He went around looking for a white-collar job and could not find one. So what did he do? He ended up joining a computer repair shop as an apprentice. Okay, and by the time he was done, he settled down and started his own computer company. And then, of course, he migrated from repairing computers to eventually selling cell phones. In the course of doing that, he found that many Nigerians come into his shop with 2-3 handsets at a time. You know, we're all familiar with those scenarios. Almost every Nigerian carries at least 2 handsets, okay, because of network issues. So he thought about it and said, look, instead of people carrying so many handsets in their hands, okay, inconveniencing themselves, why can't we produce a phone that has dual SIMs? He approached the Nokia phone company. Of course, you all know Nokia, they are the makers of the Nokia handsets. And Nokia said, no, we'd rather produce more, okay, and sell more. It will be more profitable. Of course, it does make sense instead of producing one handset with dual or triple SIMs. So they turned him down, but he was not deterred. He moved on, met a young Chinese guy who just left work with a cell phone company, and then sounded him out on the idea, and the guy bought into it. And that is, cut the long story short, that is how they started the Techno companies, Techno phone brand with dual SIMs. Okay, and from there they moved on to Infinix phone brands also to be able to accommodate, to be able to meet the needs of middle income level Nigerians. Today, Nnamdi Ezigbo and his friend are championing the cause and then the expansion of the Techno and Infinix handset. That is entrepreneurship. Okay, he saw a gap and filled it. That is what entrepreneurs do. Okay, right. Types of entrepreneurs. Ford identified 4 types of entrepreneurs. This actually is derived from the work of Job Abraham, who identified 4 types of entrepreneurs. First, he said there's a builder, the innovator, the specialist, and the opportunist. The builder identified as those who are more involved in building massive empires and infrastructure. Okay, if you are in a place like South Korea, for example, then typically these are people who are massive, who are involved in massive production of infrastructure. Most of the companies you see in South Korea today are not just single small companies, they are massive empires. Okay, if you talk about Samsung today, Samsung is not just a handset, Samsung is a whole industry comprising household items, electronics, shipbuilding, and a whole lot of those things. Most of the cruiser ships you find across the world today are built in South Korea. Most of the oil tankers are built in South Korea. That is the area that their entrepreneurs go into. The innovator starts a business because of the passion for innovation. People like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, they are driven by innovation. Okay, driven by innovations to create new things. Okay, they'll tell you they are in this business not so much because of the money, but because of their passion. Okay, because of what it will do for mankind. That is what drives them. They'll tell you, no, money is not the main motivation, but the impact that it will have on humanity. And then, of course, they are innovating, they are creating, they are ready to take more risks by the day. Specialists. The specialists is identified as those who package their skills, their expertise into viable enterprises. Okay, I just talked about Bill Gates now. Bill Gates started, driven as it were by a passion for IT, but for the creation of software that drives the IT world today. But today, Bill Gates has moved from IT and into medicine. If you hear Bill Gates discussing medicine today, you think that he isn't a medical person. But no, this is an expert, okay? He's a specialist. He's driven by the passion to build, to create new things, his expertise into new things, so that people like that are so that they bring in a whole lot of versatility into whatever it is that they do. Okay, then the opportunists. This one sees an existing gap and provide a business to service that gap. I told the story of an individual who comes into an environment, finds that the people are drinking from the stream, and then decides to build a borehole. Okay, that is an opportunity. He sees the gap, he feels it. Nnamdi Ezigbo, for example, he saw the gap. Okay, in so many Nigerians carrying so many handsets, and they feels it. That is what an opportunist does. A typical example of an opportunist also is somebody like Richard Branson. Richard Branson, he's the owner of Virgin Airlines. Okay, he's into Virgin Island, Virgin Rail Line, Virgin Music, Virgin Radio. In fact, he came to Nigeria, saw the opportunity, seeing the number of people that travel out of Nigeria on a day-to-day basis in BA, in Emirates, in Qatar, and all of that, and decided to go into partnership with the Nigerian government, starting the Virgin Nigeria business. Okay, ran that business for a couple of years until he moved out of the business because of the typical Nigerian way of running their business. So that is what an opportunist does. Okay, so these are the four types of entrepreneurs. Okay, when we raise this issue, the question we always like to ask is, do you know yourself? What drives you? Are you an innovator? Are you a specialist? Are you a builder? What is it that drives you? Okay, Job Abrahams identifies this as entrepreneurial DNA. The DNA that we all know is the genetic marker. He said no two entrepreneurs are the same. Okay, they are driven by different DNAs. Okay, some are builders, some are innovators. So you as an entrepreneur who wants to go into this line of business, what drives you? Is it the building of massive infrastructure, or is it innovation, or are you a specialist, or are you an opportunist? You've identified a gap and you are trying to fill it, or you are a specialist and you want to package something special as an enterprise to drive your business. So we advise that, look, try to identify, try to know yourself, identify what really drives you. Okay, when you are able to identify what drives you, that is when you'll be able to decide the line of business that you'll go into and work on successfully, the kind of strategy that you use, the kind of people that you surround yourself to manage your business. Okay, so that's about entrepreneurship, the types of entrepreneurship that we have. So our advice for you as you want to start your business is identify your own entrepreneurial DNA, determine what drives you, determine what pushes you, and what you want to be. Okay, right. So now, okay, so we'll finish discussing entrepreneurship. So in case you have any question, please feel free again. I will open the floor one more time. Feel free to ask the question, and then we'll proceed to the last section of this paper, okay? We have barely 30 minutes to go, so quickly. Any question? Techno, you didn't give your name. You're using a Techno Pover. Can you give us your name? You have a question? Godwin, you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, you can mute your mic. Yep.
Yes. Thank you very much for the lecture once again.
Thank you.
My question is this. With the high competition right now in starting up businesses, what are the possibilities that these businesses can transit into very large corporations, given the fact that we are more ICT driven these days? As an expert in the field, I want to have a knowledge of your insight into such possibilities.
All right, thanks. Yeah, remember we said when we were starting this paper, we said entrepreneurship is not a short race, not a 100-meter dash. It's a marathon. It's a lifelong project. Okay, so it takes a whole lot of things to do. You don't just start and then expect to become a major corporation overnight. You have to build on it. You have to work hard on it. And then there are all manners of strategies that have to come into it. Today, the world is moving away from manual, from labor, as it were, to IT. IT drives the whole world. Okay, we've seen IT companies come to the scene and blow out in no time. Okay, we've seen the Facebook transforming within a span of 16 years to what it is today, okay, with over 2 billion users. We've seen, we haven't had the names of Alibaba long ago or Amazon long ago, but today, okay, they've changed the face of doing business. And these are just marketing businesses where you sit down in your home and you make procurements online from across the world. Okay, so IT drives everything. Okay, the competition is there, is very, very stiff, but then what you need to do is to remain focused and continue to build in your own little environment until such a time, because what you need more than anything else is the market. Okay, and if you, the moment you have that market penetration, then of course you have done it. Just yesterday, I was seeing the nation giving out prizes, and one of the prizes, some of the people that got these prizes are some young IT chaps, PayPack, I believe. PayPack, they are into payment strategies, just like you have your InterSwitch and QuickTailor and all of that. And then they are doing very, very well. Two young gentlemen, okay? It's all IT. It's about coming up with ideas, new innovations, and then see how you drive it. That's how you are able to make it. That's how you are able to push. But definitely, it's not an overnight affair. It's a long-term strategy that you have to drive, okay? Remaining consistent, getting the right set of people that work with you, and then having a vision and driving that vision until you achieve what you want to do. That is how to go about whatever line of business you want to go into at all. Takes a lot of building, takes a lot of patience, take a lot of consistency. And then of course, so long as you don't move away from that mission, then of course, you know, you'll be going very, very well. Sorry. Yeah, it went off. It went away from. Yeah. All right. Sorry, Godwin. I hope you. Yeah, I hope you followed my explanation, Godwin. All right. Okay. So thank you very much. So we'll go back and then continue with the rest of the lecture. So all right, so let's look at the types of businesses for consideration. There are several types of businesses that an entrepreneur can consider going into in Nigeria. And a simple talent or passion can trigger a business that can be a means of livelihood for an entrepreneur. So let's look at some of the businesses that we can look at Nigeria. Well, most times when we look at this, many people have come off changing their minds about what they initially have in mind to considering these ones that we are going to show. But of course, if your mind is made and set on what you want to do, then of course, it's good that you work on that and make sure that it becomes a line of business that you push going forward. All right, so these are the type of businesses that the bank supports and then that you can also consider. First and foremost, first here is fashion. Fashion is very, very popular. We all know what fashion is all about in Nigeria. But for the COVID situation, we know what it is. We see on a weekly basis in Nigeria during weddings, during ceremonies, chieftaincies, and all manners of celebrations that we have as Nigerians. And then, of course, we know what our young men and women are doing in the fashion world across the world today. So that is an area that you guys can always consider. Farming, of course, this is where the bank actually wants many people as possible to go into because this is one of the greatest areas of employment. And that's an area that we hope to be able to diversify our economy and then be able to earn the necessary foreign exchange required for the continuing development of our country. Small scale manufacturing, catering is also very, very important. Buying and selling. Buying and selling, of course, is is supported to the extent that whatever it is that you buy, you are coming to add value, not just buying materials and coming to sell, or buying grains and selling. Whatever it is that you are buying, you should be able to add value. If you are buying textile materials, then you are converting it into fashion dress, into dresses, that is adding value. That is a production, that's employment. Then of course that will be supported. But if you are just going to buy clothing and then textile and coming to sell them across board, that the bank will not support that particular line of business. Then event management, that's also another very, very lucrative area, a very important area in the country today. Animal husbandry, we know the challenges that we are having with respect to the herders and the farmers clashes. So government is trying to encourage more and more people setting up ranches and then animal farming within specific locations and not roaming around the bush and then generating so much conflict around the whole place. School business, daycare, nursery, hospitality and eateries, restaurants, snack bars, shops, digital currency, investment, photography, publishing, dry cleaning, cosmetic and makeup artistry, health services. All these are various sectors that the bank supports. So you look at it closely, see the one that you think you will have passion for, that you think you'll be able to drive, that will drive, and then you will see how you can enroll in that area. Then vocational skills for consideration. We have electrician, plumbing, carpentry, masonry, where you have things like cap making, electric pole making, and the like, block making, cement block making. These are important areas really, and why we like to emphasize this is that not many Nigerians are involved in this. The construction industry in a place, for example, in Abuja, for the next 50 years, you find construction going on. But when you go into the construction sites we have in the city today, we find that many of these construction sites actually do not have Nigerians involved in them. Most of the people who we find on these sites are actually from the west coast of Africa, from Benin Republic, Togo, and Ghana. Not many Nigerians in those areas. So we need to be able to encourage that, take many of our young Nigerians who are roaming the streets, pushing wheelbarrows and doing menial jobs, to be able to go into those kind of vocational institutions to see how we'll be able to have our own people involved in this line of business. So we like to encourage our clients who in this program to think about, also look at those possibilities of setting up vocational institutions where they can contribute to the pool of users that we have in the country today. That is an area that we actually like to encourage people to go into, because we have a debt of vocational skills in the country today. Right. Things to consider before going into business. Things to consider before going into business. All right. When we started this paper, we did talk about that it is important for you to consider a whole number of things before you go into any business. Because you won't, because you say somebody within your community, Mr. A, Mr. B, is into this line of business and he's doing it successfully. And then of course it's saying that you can also just go into that line of business and make a success of it. There are a number of things that you need to consider before going into that line of business, okay? And these are some of the things that we need to look at. First and foremost, you have to ask the question, is there a demand for the business? Is there a demand for that line of business? Is there a demand for that line of business? If there's no demand for that line of business, simply jump into it. You definitely will be running into some problem, okay? Because many businesses fail simply because the entrepreneurs set up a business that sold products and services people don't need, okay? You might think that because Mr. A is successful within his own community, if you go do the same in your own, you will be successful. No, you will be wrong, okay? So you need to know if there is a need for those products, if people really need those services, okay? So set up a business that produces or sold products and services that people want, but they cannot afford, okay? You might find that, look, people need this item, need this product, but then they cannot afford it. I give the example of somebody who started a borehole business in an environment where people are drinking their waters from a stream, from a river, and then of course the disease prevalence, the health challenges they are having there. So he decided to start a borehole business. But the success of this business will depend on one or two things. First, if you set up the business and then set it up in such a way that you have tap heads where people can come and then open the tap, fill their buckets and pay 10 naira for it, people will patronize it. But if he chooses to build a sachet water company or a bottled water company where you need 10 naira to buy one sachet of water, then you find that people might need that service there, but they will not be able to afford it. Because when you compare a bucket of water at 10 naira and a sachet water at 10 naira, people would rather go for the one with the 10 naira for the bucket of water. Okay, but if the strategy this entrepreneur adopts is that of sachet water and bottled water, then of course he has been able to meet the needs of the people, but then they cannot afford it. So the business is as good as dead on arrival. Okay, so you need to ask the question: are there other people doing similar business, or are you bringing something new? I gave the example also of bakery, for example. You come into an environment and then you find that maybe there is already a bakery in that community, and then you decide to set up your own bakery business. If you're coming to produce the same bread, then you are likely to run into problem. Unless you are coming in and you're bringing in new innovations, okay? If you are selling maybe just straightforward bread, white bread with all of the bromide and things like that, and then you come in and you're introducing wheat bread, other bread with other components, other ingredients, then of course it might make a world of a difference. So you need to see what you are bringing in, whether you're bringing in something new. If you are starting a business in an area where the market is already saturated, the business might fail, okay? You will find yourself struggling. That is the example I gave of bread now will suffice here also. So it is important that you do some research to find out areas where the competition is not properly serving the customer, and then position your business to fill that gap. So it's very, very important. Research is very, very important. See where the competition is meeting, then you see how you'll be able to fill that gap. If you find that the customer is not meeting the challenge in that area, then of course the problem will always remain. So as an entrepreneur, you have to work hard to differentiate your product and bring something different to the market that no one has ever seen. That is your USP, your unique selling point or proposition. So basically we're saying here that whatever it is that you are bringing into the market, let it be different, differentiate it from what is already there. Here, I'd like to give the example of pig milk and then a 3 crown milk. Okay, over the years in Nigeria, pig milk dominated the Nigerian milk market. Okay, it came in a can, selling at 15 naira per can. It was liquid, okay, vaporized, okay, and it dominated the market. And then, of course, from nowhere, 3 crown milk came. 3 crown milk came, and people were laughing. How is this guy going to break the monopoly of pig milk? But what did 3 crown do? 3 crown came with sachet milk, powdered sachet milk, and was selling it for 10 naira. So you can see, the 3 crown people identified a large segment of Nigerians that could not afford pig milk at 15 naira per can. And then, of course, the storage. If you're not able to finish your canned milk, then, of course, you have to think about the storage for the next day. So many people do not have light in their house, no refrigeration. Of course, that means that you have to use that 15 naira canned milk per day. But with the sachet powdered milk, you are able to use it across board, and you are able to simply fold it and keep wherever it is that you want and use the next day without it spoiling. So with the introduction of the 10 naira sachet powdered milk, okay, 3 crown was able to break into pig milk's monopoly, and then of course commanded a substantial share of the market. In no time, more and more people were buying the sachet milk, 10 naira sachet milk by 3 crown. And before you knew what was happening, more and more companies came into the market along with the same line of business. Even pig had to also go into production of sachet milk, powdered milk. And today we have cans of powdered milk being sold all over the country. That is your unique selling point. That is your strong point. That's your unique selling proposition, something that differentiates you from what is already in the market. We know that Peak was already dominant in the market, and then of course, Three Crown came in with its own unique selling point, and then also took a substantial share of the market, to the extent that Peak Milk also had to join that same line of business. So that is how you go about it as an entrepreneur. Note what is happening, what is available, and then come in with something that differentiates you from the rest, okay? So finding out something that makes your business stand out is critical to the survival of an enterprise. That is what we advise our entrepreneurs to do. Those of you who want to go into any line of business, please, these are things that you should note and see how you work on that, okay? Things to consider before going into business, other things that you consider before going into business, determine what needs are out there. What are the things that people need out there, okay? What businesses exist to satisfy those needs? Okay, if there are no business currently satisfying those needs, it means that no one has thought about that business. Maybe nobody has thought about it, and that's why nobody is meeting those needs. Okay, so there is not enough market. Maybe there's not enough market, and then to setting up that business, and maybe that's why people are not in that line of business. And then, of course, that the cost of carrying out business in that environment could be too expensive. Okay, so these are the things that you need to do. Okay. You need to determine what the needs are out there, and then you need to find out why there are no businesses satisfying those needs. Is it that there is not enough market, okay? Or is it that that business will not be viable within that environment? So all these things are important for you to know, okay? So how do you determine what the needs are out there? First, you have to ask questions. You'll be surprised at what you find out about people's needs when you ask questions. Okay, so you don't just jump into the market and then start producing and dumping on the market. Okay, you'll be surprised that because you didn't ask questions, people might not need what you are just dumping on them or producing and dumping on them. Okay, you could administer some simple questionnaires, develop simple questionnaires, pass around among the people within that community, let them answer them. That will be able to help you in guiding you, giving you directions as to what to do. You could use the social media. Social media today is one of the greatest sources of penetrating and assessing people and then finding out what people actually require and need in an environment. So you can see that possibility. Read journals and online sites. They give free information about market surveys. Then you can look around and observe. You'll be surprised what you find. That's what Bill Gates and Steve Jobs did, observing things around them to be able to come up with the kind of businesses they came up with. So these are the things that you need to consider before going into any business. All right, so we're winding down now. We're winding down on this paper now. Then let's now look at the main barriers to starting a small business. Remember when we started, I talked about that whatever it is that we do in life, there's always this likelihood that you will run into certain challenges, certain barriers, certain hurdles, okay? No matter what you want to go do, if you're going into any line of business, definitely you will find that there will be hurdles along the line. You are in this program today because of a hurdle that you have identified, okay? So let's look at what these hurdles are and how we'll be able to overcome them. Good. First and foremost, money. First and foremost, money. Okay, this is the most vital resource an entrepreneur needs to start a business, and probably the most critical barrier to starting a small business. Exactly how much do you need to start, and where do you get it from? We're all in this program today because we want to access financing. We want to access funds to start our business. So money is a very, very critical aspect of any entrepreneur. Anybody who wants to start a business knows that he needs money. Okay. In some cases, however, it is not so much the money, but lack of knowledge. Many small businesses fail, not for lack of capital or lack of money, but because the entrepreneurs had little knowledge of the business. That is another challenge, okay? So while some might money by the problem of others, for others, it's a lack of knowledge. They know little about the business. They are interested in that business, but they know little about it. So it's important that you acquire some important knowledge about that line of business. When are the peak and low seasons for the business? When are the peak and low seasons? Okay, most businesses rather have peak periods. They have low seasons. Okay, so you have to be very, very familiar with the low and peak periods of that line of business. Okay, what sudden change in the environment can affect the business? Government policies, taxes, and the like. Okay, you find that In Nigeria, you are doing a business in Nigeria today. You have to be very, very mindful of the kind of policies, government policies that are out there. Okay, I'd like to give the example of the experience of maize farmers in Nigeria not too long ago. Okay, in the course of banning rice and poultry products and all of that, government also placed a ban on the importation of maize. Okay, and because of that, many entrepreneurs, many businesses, people went into banks, collected money, and then went into maize farming. Okay, and before they could harvest, poultry farmers were complaining that the poultry feeds were becoming scarce, and they needed more maize in the country. And government, of course, under pressure, lifted the ban on importation of maize. And of course, when the maize was flooded the market, suddenly those who took money, who took loans, found that their products were still in the farms. And of course, there was already a glut, which means they were going to lose money. If they harvest, they were going to sell at below market prices. And of course, they will not be able to recoup their money to be able to pay the banks. So that is a major challenge there. Okay, so government policy keeps changing at intervals. Okay, that you can, if you are not careful, you will not be able to monitor, and you will not be able to determine whether this policy will succeed long enough for you to be able to remain productive. So that is a major challenge there. Then, of course, we're all familiar with the issues of taxes. Okay, the increment in VAT payments, payments from 5% to 7.5%. Stamp duty from 5% to 6%. So all of these areas that, as an entrepreneur, you have to be very, very mindful of the challenges that are out there. Okay, are your products perishable? How long does it take you to produce your products? All of those things, again, are things that you have to be very, very mindful about. If your products are perishable, then of course you need to know that you need some means of preservation. If you are into tomato farming, for example, then of course you need to know that tomato is a seasonal product, okay? And if you are producing in high season, then of course you need to find out ways of preservation so that when you don't simply dump your products in the market and you are losing money and you're not able to break even. So you need to have means of preservation of that product. Okay, so it's very, very key and important that we have the knowledge about some of the kind of products we go into. Determination. Another major barrier to starting a business is determination. We say here that you have to develop the courage of a bulldog and maintain the determination that will enable you to smash through obstacles, as there are many along the way. There are many along the way. Okay, you need a determination to keep your focus, pick up when you fail or face rejection, and to continue to look for new solutions and strategies to make the business a success. If for example, you are starting a new business and then you run into the first obstacle, the first challenge, all you do is simply put your hands on your head and give up, then of course you know you are not going to go very far in that line of business. So you need determination. You need to keep focus. You need to pick yourself even when you are in the face of failure or face of rejection, and then continue to look for new solutions and new strategies in that line of business. That's the one way. That's the only way you can be able to succeed. Not that you simply give up the very moment you face the first hurdle. It's a major challenge, and that's something that we have to be very, very mindful about when we are going into any line of business. Okay, another major challenge, another major barrier is fear, our greatest enemy. Fear is one of the greatest barriers to people starting a business. You know, they ask themselves the question, what if I fail? What if I make a fool of myself? What if I'm rejected and people say no? Okay, so what? If you fail, what does it matter? So long as you are ready to keep pushing, you just go ahead and keep pushing. Just go ahead and keep fighting your way through. Okay, if you make a fool of yourself, it's yourself. If you are rejected, so what? Okay, you have set your mind on something, you need to go ahead and then pursue it. Like I always like to say, in Africa, in Nigeria, Africans have not been able to overcome fear. That is our major challenge. Okay, we have the fear of dark, fear of night, fear of superstition, and all of those things. Okay, while the Western world has overcome and conquered fear, That's why they are able to send people to International Space Center today. That's why they've been able to send people to the moon. But the African has not been able to overcome fear. And that is one of our major challenges. So this is something that we need to work on, overcoming our fear, which is our greatest enemy. People like Bill Gates, Thomas Edison, Honda, the Wright brothers, they either failed or were rejected at the time. But their determination, okay, their determination is why up to the day we are mentioning them, and then the monumental changes they were able to bring in the world. Bill Gates with his Microsoft, Thomas Edison, who is the creator of the electric bulb today, tried and failed severally until about the 10th, 11th time before he succeeded in creating the filament, which runs our bulb today. Honda in Japan, when he started his car company, people laughed at him and said there was no way he was going to make any headway. But today, Honda is a major brand in the world today. Okay, that is somebody who was rejected in his country. The Wright brothers, have already talked about the Wright brothers. When they started their aeroplane, people laughed at them and said there was no way any object with that kind of massive frame and metallic would be able to fly. But today, we are all beneficiaries of the determination, the vision of the Wright brothers. Okay, lack of support. That is another area again where people find challenges anytime they are starting a small business. Okay, many small businesses lack support in the critical areas needed. These include the areas of funding. Few financiers are willing to support small business startups. Okay, I'm sure many of you are familiar with those situations. You find people who are well-to-do, wealthy, and all of that. When you approach them seeking for finances to start your business, they simply tell you they don't have the money. Even when you see them buying new things, setting up meetings, building new homes, and all of that, that is always a challenge startups have. Then legal and regulatory support. Difficulty in fulfilling registration requirements for companies. In Nigeria today, we have what they call the ease of doing business. This is in recognition of the challenges small businesses have in starting business in Nigeria. Registering their companies, the registration requirement, the regulatory requirement are so massive. Okay, and because of that, Nigeria has always been rated very low with respect to the indicators of ease of doing business. So government is working on how to improve on all of those things. Today, because of the changes that have come in, people are able to register their company without using the services of lawyers. You can sit down in your sitting room, in your homes, and then be able to register your company today easily without having to go through a lawyer or wait for lawyers to do that for you. So that is where government is working towards supporting small businesses as they work on meeting the legal and regulatory requirement for starting businesses in the country today. All right, so we are now in the last section of this paper. Sources of funding for small businesses. What are the sources of funding for small businesses? First, we have equity, we have loans, we have grants, cooperative loans, crowdfunding. These are the various sources of funding for small businesses. So let's look at them one after the other. Equity is an investment made in the shares of businesses. It's made with an understanding that the investor will get a return on their investment and then appreciation on the capital they've invested. Equity is a good source of funding for entrepreneurs as it is more long-term in nature and gives the entrepreneur enough time for the business to take root. So basically here what we're saying is equity is basically when you go into maybe a stock market, for example, and then buy shares in the business. It's the shares that you buy, which is the money that you put into that business, is what is used to develop that line of business. Okay, it is a good source of funding because the entrepreneur whose business is being bought into knows that with the finances coming in, he will be able to now set up the company, set up the business, build it, mature it before people begin to look forward to earning dividends from that line of business. So equity is a very, very important source of funding for businesses. Okay, those of you who are just starting, you might not immediately be able to take your business to the stock exchange, but where you are involved in some innovations that require major capital, those are the areas that you can begin to think about sourcing for funds. Okay, equity funding can come from various sources, comes from saving, comes from partners, comes from investors, then family. Savings, of course, we all know what savings is all about. As we work and salaries, we are expected to set aside some little money, which we could use to start our businesses. Savings are always very, very difficult to do, but the advice we always give that it takes a lot of effort, discipline, and sacrifice to put money aside. So we always advise and we always tell our clients that if you are thinking about starting your own business, then you should learn the habit of saving. It's a very important area. Partners, this could be friends, relations who have money, have their own savings also to bring into the business you are thinking about going into. If you believe so much, if they believe so much in that, in the idea that you have, in the enterprise that you have, they will be able to invest in that line of business also. An investor is a person who puts funds into something in order to earn money on return. An investor also is one that goes into the stock market or looks at various people who are pitching their businesses, and then of course will be able to put his funds if he believes in that line of business. And then of course with the intent that at the end of it, he will also be able to earn some money. Then angel investors, these are wealthy private individuals who invest in business in exchange for some equity. Angel investors here might not necessarily be relations, but those who see a line of business and think that there is some prospects, there is some future in it, and then they are able to also put in their money. Okay, we hope that they will help in money, mentoring you, nurturing you along the line, guiding you, helping you to find your directions. People, such private angel investors do not necessarily come in because maybe they are looking forward to making some quick money off you, but they have a belief in you, and then they want to see how far you can go. So they help in mentoring you and then seeing you succeed. At the end of it, really, again, they also want to get some of their returns in the equity which they put in the company. That's what angel investors are all about. Then family and friends. Most of us really, anytime we go into business, the first set of people that we approach for finances as the first source of funding, our family. Okay, you meet your parents, father, and mom, and you tell them that you have this line of business you want to go into. You and your friends are considering setting up a company, and then of course invite them to provide you with some finances. Most of us do that. Okay, so families and friends are always the first source of investment for young startup businesses. I'm sure all of you have also tried that line of business previously. Okay, now another source of funding is loans. Okay, a business loan is money given to an entrepreneur to finance the purchase of an asset or fund the business's recurrent expenditure. Loans can either be interest bearing or non-interest bearing. In the former, the borrower and the lender agree on a rate. The loan is tenured for a specific period, and at the end of the tenure or maturity, the borrower must repay the loan to the lender together with the interest that has accrued. Okay, so we are in this training, for example, today because you want to access a loan facility, the AGSMEIS loan scheme. Okay, this kind of loan, the borrower and the lender agree on a rate. Okay, the rate is 5% interest rate. Okay, agree on an amount between 1 to 10 million. Okay, and then it's tenure, 7 years tenure. Okay, and at maturity, you're expected to pay back the amount borrowed with the interest element to it. That is what loans are all about. Okay, that's for interest-bearing loans. But then there are non-interest-bearing loans. These ones are based on Islamic principles, and then you have banks like Jaiz Bank, for example, Taj Bank in Nigeria today, who are into non-interest bearing loans. Okay, they have their profit sharing methods. They know the strategy. They have their own laid out regulations in that respect. But the loans bottom line is that it comes with no interest to it. Okay. Loans can be assessed also from banks and then from partners who are willing to provide you with the loan facility. Then we have the other source of funding is grants. Grants are funds given to small businesses by donor organizations. Usually the donor does not retain an interest in the business. However, to ensure that the money is actually used for the purpose intended, the donor will set up the processes to ensure that the project is properly implemented. Here we have, in the country, we have so many donor agencies, agencies like you said DFID, Here they come in when they see you are starting a business and quick they have interest. Most of these businesses, most times, are social enterprise businesses, NGOs, and things like that. Businesses they have belief in that will be beneficial to the community, to the less privileged in the society. They come in to provide support. Most times the support they provide is not even monetary. They could provide you with materials, with the expertise, with advice and all of that. Other times they buy, procure the implements and then give you to help you in the startup. Okay, most donor agencies, of course, they don't get themselves directly involved in running the business. They do not expect any returns on the investment they've made. All they try to see is that you are well established and guided and provided with the necessary implements to help you attain the goals of that organization. Grants can be given by government organizations, development partners, family trusts, not-for-profit organizations, wealthy individuals. Those are sources of grants, really, in most countries. Okay, so here are some sources of grants in Nigeria. We have Sweden, gives grants to SMEs, DFID, which I just mentioned. Then there's Shell LifeWire Funds. Shell LifeWire Funds are set up by Shell Development Corporation, the international IOC that operates in the Niger Delta. Here they provide grants to young men and women in the Niger Delta area who are interested in setting up their businesses, have good business ideas that are sustainable, that could be viable. Here the intention is to take away many of these people away from destructive activities, militancy, and bring them into areas where they are society. That is basically what Shell tries to do with respect to providing grants to this set of people. The T. White Anjuma Foundation, this is very, very active in the Northeast zone, where it is providing a lot of succor to the IDPs, victim support projects, helping with settlement of IDPs, providing schooling materials for young IDPs in that area. Then, of course, we have Bank of Industry, MTN Foundations. All of these provide different forms of grants in Nigeria today. Cooperative loans, this is another source of funding. Cooperative societies are an independent group of people who come together to offer mutual support and cooperation to each other. Okay, individuals within the cooperative contribute money, and these are used to either fund individual loans and businesses of interested members of the cooperative. Cooperative societies are some of the most popular institutions we have in most organizations in Nigeria today. Almost any organization you go, you find cooperative societies. And what they do really is individuals within the organization coming together, forming a cooperative society where on a month-to-month basis, they contribute money to the cooperative. It's from there that participants or members of the cooperative, even non-members, go to borrow money, either to start businesses or to pay school fees or to rent houses or to buy cars and things like that. That's what cooperative societies do for their members. Or the cooperative itself could decide to buy things which they share to their members, or buy land which they sell to their members as means of increasing their resources. We know that cooperative societies in the country have grown up to be major banks in some instances. Many of them have turned out to be microfinance banks and all of those. So these are very, very important source of funding in the country today. Finally, we look at the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a process of raising funds from individuals through the internet. This is a new funding procedure or strategy. Well, more and more of them on the internet is called crowdfunding, where people who have ideas, business ideas, social enterprises, where they want to help communities pitch their ideas, sell their ideas on the internet through various platforms, Facebook, WhatsApp groups and things like that. And then, of course, those who are interested in those same line of business send in their money to be a part of that business. And then, of course, there are those who are really involved in international marketing, like the M Global Alliance Global Forever Product products. These are all internet crowdfunding strategies that we have on the internet today. These ones have product lines which people join in procuring the products, being introduced by individuals, and as you come in, you begin to develop downlines from where you also earn some money. So these are new strategies really which people are following in funding today. Of course, it has its own downside with the MMM, for example, that turn out to be Ponzi schemes. So anytime you are going into any crowdfunding projects, you have to be very, very mindful of the kind of project you are following. Okay, you have to do your background research very, very well before you put your money into any crowdfunding project on the internet. But it is a very, very popular and one of the many areas today where people are able to source for funding to start their businesses across the country and across the world today. All right, so wow, we have come to the end of this paper at last. I want to thank you immensely for being a part of our day. For this first paper, there's another one coming on in the next 30 minutes or thereabout. After this, we will have our post-lecture quiz. We'll post the quiz and then you can go through and answer them, and then you let us know how your scores are. But before then, if you have any question you want to ask on the last segment of this paper, please feel free to ask question. I can see it's only Godwin that's left on the platform. Others keep coming and going, coming and going. I know the year is coming to an end, so many people are busy running around trying to do things as the year runs to an end. All right, Godwin, do you have any comment before we close this session?
Yes, sir, I have.
All right, okay. Lord man standing.
Yes. So I've been seeking for an opportunity like this for quite a while.
All right.
So having this platform is really encouraging to me. So I noticed there's been efforts by the government and some organizations to make entrepreneurship attractive.
Yeah.
But somehow, I don't know why we still have hurdles and stuff like that. Especially, I don't know, maybe I should term it as the Nigerian factor. Because, for example, now, somebody like me, right? For quite a while, I've tried to break into the system to get funding to stabilize my line of business interest. But it's been so herculean. And I just pray this one pulls through for me, because for me is about, I want to partake in the production stuff. I'm not just cool about sitting down there in white collar stuff. I have never been the white collar type, and then the environment is not so conducive to allow you even thrive in the area you want to thrive. So my question now is this: now that I'm on this platform receiving this training, and my intentions are quite genuine. Is there any chance that the Nigerian factor will still not play in? I have attended the lecture. I'm really interested. I'm really passionate. At the end of the day, I may hear that a million people have received the loans, and then me that really wants to do it and see it surpass my lifetime, I can't get such a. I don't know why is life like that. I don't know. I want to have an insight. The question is, I hope that the opportunities will be given to the people that have the passion to actually make these things work, and not just man no man or stuff. I don't know. Maybe like a merit kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thanks, Godwin, for your question and your concerns. Really, it's and anytime we're dealing with issues like that in Nigeria, it becomes a major area of concern. You're not the first person. Many of our participants are clients who are trained in the last few months have always come up with issues like that. And some have actually asked, is there anything that we can do to facilitate? Are there areas that you can be of assistance to us, you people on the inside? There things, because we hear people are giving money here, doing this here, and all of those things. And we have always come out to say that, look, as far as we are concerned, we want to believe in the system, and we believe genuinely that the government wants to make a difference. And I could say that the bank is not owned by the government, but it's owned by private individuals, committee of bankers that they are the majority shareholders in this entire business. So they will actually want to see that, look, this business is run as a business, as a as a functioning business, because they are putting in their money. Okay, each of the banks bring 5% of their profit to us to contribute to this to the setting up of this bank. So if you are bringing in 5% of your net profit on a year-to-year basis for this business, that means you also want to recoup something back. You're not just dashing the money out. It's not palliative. You've done palliative and move on. Okay, but this one is an investment that you want to recoup. Okay, so that you make the bank sustainable. And like I said, the bank is supposed to spread across the 774 local government areas in the country, so as to promote rural banking, so that be able to reach our rural communities, providing easy funds for them. And the one way you can do that is having to be as genuine as possible, not looking at people's faces, but looking at people who actually want to go into business, businesses that will be productive, businesses that will be able to pay back the loan, so that others will also want to go into it and collect this money and then start their own businesses. You know, the government says it wants to take 100 million people out of poverty in the next 10 years. How is it going to do that? This is one of the strategies. This is one of the strategies, creating employment. The belief is that if they give you 5 million, as a startup, they give you 5 million. It's expected that you should be able to employ one person. Okay? If they are giving you 10 million, as an existing business you want to expand, you should be able to employ 2 people. Okay? That's taking people out of unemployment. That's taking people out of poverty cycle. So that is a strategy. So we want to believe firmly that it's not a matter of looking at faces, but it's a matter of looking at the businesses that people want to go into, and then genuinely trying to reach out across the line to make sure that people who really want to go into this business are able to do so. That is our belief, but that is at our own level. The functioning in-house in the bank is how the bank work functions is an entirely different thing that we might not be very, very knowledgeable about. But we know that the final decision is not even taken at the national microfinance bank level. It goes all the way to the CBN level, okay, where there is a committee that sits and considers all of these facilities. So I want to advise that you keep your mind open, firm in your faith, and believe that yes, if it's going to go 100 people will get, why wouldn't you be part of that 100 people that will go? We get it. So you are open-minded about things like that, and I'm sure it's going to work out. That's my belief in that regard. So
Yeah.
disabuse your mind about the possibility that it has to be man, no man, and all that, and believe that yes, if 2, 3, 5, 10 people will get, then of course you also stand the chance of getting also.
Because I really want to have this thing working. You get, and by merit, by the grace of God, I know I should merit it. Well, of course, well, I have faith in it. That's why I could commit and then come this far by the grace of God.
It will work.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Please don't go away. My colleague is coming in to take the second paper. I hope your other colleagues will come back. But even if you're the only one, we'll still continue. And then, of course, we have the YouTube platform. So some are joining us on the YouTube platform. So we hope that they'll also continue to benefit. And at the end of the day, also, we have to post this, upload this on the YouTube, on our WhatsApp training platform, the slides, and then the YouTube recording, so that they'll benefit. So we'll run the program even if there's nobody in the class. But please remain.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. You too, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.